over 140 different clients.
You have to think of how to harmonize all of them. You know, I've definitely had conversations with other copywriters where they're like, you charge how much? Under the umbrella, there is a common thread for everyone. So all of the personas will have some kind of common goal.
We find out how you do it, how you write so many things for so many different people and close deals all over the world.
9 months in, I hit 6 figures. Once you have all of those pieces, the rest is just so easy to build on. So these are people that you're talking to. And since this is such a relationship business, it's really important to get them comfortable so that they can, you know, reveal whatever they're actually thinking versus what they think that they should say.
You share a lot of secrets there. That's a lot of good stuff.
And the most important piece,
so today we're here with Jenn Jouhseik, a super successful copywriter who's worked with like over 140 different clients over the last however many years. Actually, I haven't even asked you how many years have you been writing copy for?
it's almost 4 years in February.
Wow. So you worked with a lot of people in the last 4 years. And so Jenn's here and willing to share some secrets, and we find out, you know, how you do it, how you write so many things for so many different people and close deals all over the world. Recently, I met up with Jenn and the rest of the dojo in Japan, and she actually closed a deal while she was on the train. So yeah, there's a lot that you, if you're watching this, you can learn from Jenn. So thanks for joining us, and yeah.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Tell us about that deal on the train, actually, because you told me over text. I think I saw you posted like this deal closed, but like what actually happened?
Yeah, so I was in talks with a client. So there's 2 separate deals. There's the one on the train, and then there's one in a cab. I'm trying to remember which one's which. But one was for a brand story development and website copy project. So those are some big things that I tend to work on. It was with an organization that does a lot of cool work in the it's like nonprofit kind of sector. They focus a lot on this particular one was focusing on the policy between drug abuse and underserved communities and the sector between how drug policy and abuse kind of intersect over there. So that one was through actually a referral. A lot of my clients that I close are typically through referrals, which is the golden like method to get any clients, as you know. But yeah, that's the forever client system in play. Yeah, so that one was closing that. It was pretty much, we were just in talks. We were just sending emails, and she said yes while I was on the train. And we just got everything signed and sealed right there as I was going to, I don't even know where we were going at that point.
That's cool though. I mean, there was a couple of copywriters there that were like just getting started in their career, and they're like thinking about closing $1,000, $2,000 deal. And then here you are with this like massive deal you just closed, and it's like, oh, it's on the train, you know, just like everybody was kind of surprised by that. And I thought, oh, that's very cool. So I think that referrals then definitely makes it a lot easier to get these high ticket deals. And I wonder, like, that whole sector, I mean, I haven't written copy in that world. Like, how do you even get into that sort of industry? Because it's not the traditional direct response, like write emails and Facebook ads that a lot of copywriters get into, right? It's like you actually write a lot of copy for, you know, niches that I think a lot of people don't go into. They don't know about these clients that have these particular copywriting needs, you know?
Yeah, I think so. When I started my copywriting journey, I kind of focused more on website copy, and then that soon branched into brand messaging and brand voice. And so I've been able to work with a bunch of different niches in that area, and helping them just develop who they are as a brand and stand out in the market. And just because I'm a rebel against niches, I don't like to niche down to an industry of sorts. I am also a Gemini, so I get bored pretty easily. And I just like to have a bunch of different things going on. And when I'm working in different industries, it's super cool to be able to learn about all the different things. And so I really don't know how I fell into the nonprofit world. They kind of just found me, which I guess is a good thing. And I've worked with quite a few organizations in that area as well. Also education and just physical therapy, chiropractors, like therapists in general. It kind of ranges all over the place. And so it's really just being able to kind of dive in and understand that industry. I interviewed their clients or their customers, depending on what kind of provider they are. And I get into the nitty-gritty to learn kind of what's going on, their background experience, working with that brand, that company, that organization, and just being able to take their voice of customer like messaging and infuse that into the brand's messaging so that it speaks right directly to them.
I think there's a lot of research that you need to do to be able to write in all these niches. Like part of the reason I wanted to just stick with the coaching personal brand, let's just say like social media personal brands that have like an email list, is that the message is relatively simple. It's the same sort of main crowd. They buy like from everybody, you know, like let's say if you're teaching how to make money with Amazon, it's the same sort of language that the people use when they want to buy into dropshipping or become a, you know, I don't know, let's say like buy their own ATM business or something, you know, like all the biz op, it's like all the same language. So the research is done once. But I remember actually like when we first started working together, like you know, we were on this one-on-one call and you came to the call and you showed me this like research document that you do for your clients. And I was just like completely blown away because it was like 60 something pages. It was like a lot. And I was like, wow, this is a lot of work that you actually put in a lot of research for these clients. And it makes sense because if you're writing in all these different niches, especially if you're not in, let's say like for example, if I was writing copy for middle-aged men that want to get into a relationship, it's not the same as writing for 20-year-olds. You know, like I would have to research and learn about those guys and like how they think and like talk to them. So like, what are some of the biggest things that you look for whenever you're working with a client that's, you know, not like maybe they have a slightly different market or different voice, or like what are the kind of things you look for when you do that research?
So research-wise, I think it's kind of just diving into different areas where those types of like the audiences. Usually so working with bigger brands and organizations, they tend to have a split of audiences and there's different audience personas that they go after. And so it kind of all falls under an umbrella, but there are different age ranges or different types of people. And so it really kind of is a like multi-pronged approach where I would have to speak directly to those groups of people. Usually, thankfully, like the organizations have those people readily available that I can, you know, reach out and interview. But otherwise, I would just really kind of dive into areas that they hang out, look at different aspects of them where I could get their actual, you know, messaging what they say, phrases, the way that they talk, and understand kind of, you know, desires, fears, obstacles, and all of that, and kind of use that into all of that. Another thing is just really kind of competitor research. If there are any specific organizations that do similar kind of things in that industry, seeing what they're doing and how their people also react. It's kind of like the same thing in that sense. And then figuring out how the client itself that I'm working with stands apart from them and being able to highlight that. So yeah, it's just deep diving into a lot of stuff.
Lots of it, yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I mean, I think a lot of people don't want to do the interviews. You know, a lot of copywriters, they don't want to get on the phone with someone and actually ask the difficult, maybe not even difficult questions. Maybe it's just like having a conversation with a stranger and it's like, hey, this is, I mean, how do you even go about that conversation? Do you just reach out to them yourself and say like, hey, I'm representing company and I'd love to talk to you like that, right?
Yeah, pretty much. So I get the contact information from the organization, client, whatever, and I will reach out and kind of explain a little bit of who I am, so that they don't think I'm some random stranger, even though I am. But yeah, but because no one really understands like copywriter or like anything like that. So I have to kind of keep it super simple and say like we are working to make the brand better and to make sure that what we're doing is resonating with the right people and really, supporting and, helping the people in need that they're trying to reach. And so I would love to have a conversation. I pretty much come up with a set of questions that are standard across the board for all people so that there is some sense of structure to it, and then it's pretty much like a conversation. So I say, I have these sets of questions, but I want us to just talk like casually, and if we hit them, we'll hit them, and if there are other questions that pop up, we can. And so it's nothing like super strict, like question answer, because again, these are people that you're talking to, and since this is such a relationship business, it's really important to get them comfortable so that they can, reveal whatever they're actually thinking versus what they think that they should say, which wouldn't help me at all, or the client.
Yeah, because a lot of the times when clients do research, even with their email list, they're like, hey, just doing research or like just getting feedback. And then they like ask for feedback, and everybody gives the thing that they think they should say, or they answer the poll the way that they should say it. But it's very difficult to actually get customers to share what they actually think. I've had that a lot where people say like, what's your number one question about this business? And it's like, how do I get started? And then you tell them how to get started, but then they're like, oh, let me think about it. It's like, it's not actually their main thing that they're thinking about. Their main thing is like, I don't know if I can afford this, or I don't know if it's legit or something. They won't say because they don't want to hurt people's feelings. I'm very curious though, because I know with web copy, like I've written maybe 5 websites. I don't really write that many, like much website copy. I've done some brand work, but I haven't done much website copy. A lot of these businesses, they have multiple personas or ideal customer profiles or avatars or whatever you call them, right? How do you talk to, the client's clearly going to tell you that they want you to talk to like more than just one person if they've got a website that they, like, how do you manage to talk to so many different buyer personas or whatever they, like avatars on a website? Because direct response, it's like everybody always teaches you have to talk to one person, but I feel like it's very difficult to do that when you do a website.
So you have to kind of think of how to harmonize all of them. Under the umbrella, there is a common thread for everyone. So all of the personas will have some kind of common goal, and that is what you would want to have as the overarching through line when it comes to the website copy. Then of course you have separate pages where the home kind of acts like a navigation bar. You want to really kind of demonstrate who the client is, who they help, what they do, what they're an expert in, and how to, what the next possible step is. And from there, you could kind of detail like, okay, we do talk to maybe 5 personas or whatever that is, but it kind of helps them self-identify who is who, and you have sections where you would talk to that individual group, and then that would bring them to their own kind of like siloed page where it's more of a landing page that kind of has a service or services that would speak to that specific group, but overarching like the home and the about should kind of address all of them in tandem.
Interesting, yeah. Yeah, makes sense. I think that having the common goal, I like the way you put that, because a lot of the time it's like, well, everybody has a slightly different goal. Like, let's say we're talking about Amazon again, right? Like you have Amazon sellers that already have a store, and then you have people aspiring to build an Amazon business. And it's like, how do we talk to both of them on the website? Well, maybe you find the thing that they both want, which is scale a profitable Amazon business. Maybe that's what they both want, for example, So I think that's interesting. So from what I'm understanding, like the process is pretty much, you have a set of things that you're looking for: desires, wants, goals, fears, like in depth. You collect some of that information from your clients because they usually already have some of that research. Then you go out there and you talk to all these different people. you ask them questions, and you have a natural conversation so that they lower their resistance to like sharing what they actually feel. You collect all that information, and then you start to look for what you said is like the through line, like the common thing that they all kind of have in common, and that sort of leads what the main message is going to be on the page, and then the rest you just build out from there. Is that generally the process?
Yeah, pretty much. I think if brand story development is involved, there's a bit more of taking, all of what they've said, what the company's direction wants to, like where they want to go, where the market is, competitors around, and really kind of figuring out how to make them stand out, to address their secret sauce, like what like makes them the desirable company, and kind of weaving in different messaging that so the moment that someone sees their copy anywhere, they should know it's that brand. Like that's the whole point of really kind of archetyping or architecting, all of the pieces of a brand. Like that's the brand foundations when it comes to the.
So there's that's like also you got to also study their competitor, all the competitors, to see like what they're not saying that your client or customer, or not customer, but like the business that you're writing copy for, like what are they saying that no one else is saying, and also how do they do that one thing in a unique way to help all those customers achieve that common goal.
Yeah, it's definitely like it's very strategic. Whatever we're working on for the foundational messaging, it's hitting the points that competitors are not, and also making sure that if there are issues with what competitors are doing, like how we are addressing those objections, those challenges, those everything, and making it our own so that we, like the client, would stand out in that sense. And it's just really finding those gaps and finding strategic opportunities for the client to execute on like down the line. So a lot of it is really like laying the groundwork and then making sure that, you are, there's different avenues that the client can continue to take from there and continue building, because at the end of the day, the client is building a brand that is going to grow and evolve, and everything has to kind of move with it. And so once you have the foundational pieces, it's just building the blocks on top of that.
Yeah, I like that. That is interesting because, a lot of copywriters look at website copy and think, oh, it's just a headline, it's just a couple of blurbs. And it's like, well, yes, but it's like those words are very, very selected. And it's a lot of work behind those words. And I think many business owners don't even realize like the amount of nuance that is required to come up with a message that like really, gets it. Because it's a lot of work. It's like a lot of the emails that I write, let's say for a client, they're short emails, but the message that I use to sell the workshop or whatever, that is carrying the whole email. That like one sentence is going to be the thing that makes or breaks the, whether people click or not. And it's like, it's just that one sentence. And if you say that one sentence by itself, it should be sometimes enough people are willing to click. But if you get that sentence wrong, the rest of the promotion fails. And copywriters look at all the other parts of the copy like, oh, I told a good story, I had a good subject line, I had a good, I had a decent call to action, but I don't understand what was missing. And it's like, I guess it's what you're saying is like that USP or that marketing message or like the one thing that makes this business stand out and this offer stand out and how it serves the customer base is like, it takes a lot of research, a lot of work to do that. And I think many copywriters don't really know how to do that anymore, or they don't spend enough time on that aspect of writing. And I think that's like the fundamental, I think it's the fundamental marketing skill that you actually need is being able to do that process. Because you've taken that and you've done it for other things now as well, right? Like you're not just writing website copy, you've branched to use those same skill set to like really stand out in this marketplace.
Yeah, I've definitely, I think it's, the foundations is super important. And once you have that, you can do any types of copy for the client. Like it allows you to understand the brand voice, to really understand the messaging, like the personas that you're talking to and all of that. So once you have all of those base like pieces, the rest is just so easy to build on. So that's why I like to start with, the brand foundations first. Then you could do a website. So easy to do a website after that because you have everything that you need. And then from there, you could do email marketing, you can do funnels, you can do social, you could branch out everywhere as long as you have that base. And so it really is all of the groundwork at once. Because if you're coming in to a client just working specifically on email marketing, let's say, you still need all of that information. And so once you have those foundations, like it's super easy to be able to use that and like leverage it and make it grow.
And that's really when I think we started working together, was like you were doing the work for all those clients to set up their brand, like help them set up like the correct brand voice and the website. And then you started to move into more email related stuff. Like, what have you noticed is very different from the work that you were doing before to now, where you're charging some professional rates for your email copy? Maybe you should tell some people the secrets to that. I've always been asking, for all of you watching, I've always been asking Jenn how she charges such professional premium rates. Let's put it that way, like white glove, like jet, like some copywriters, they're flying business class and they think they're great. Jen's like flying private with her rates. So it's like, really, there must be something going on here.
I think a lot of it has to do with mindset, at the end of the day. Like when I first started copywriting, I actually hated emails. I didn't want to be involved with emails at all. And I was listening to some podcasts where Chris Orzechowski was talking about how much he charges for emails. And he put out a number, like most people that I've talked to in the space, they start really low. They start like $25 an email, which isn't very sustainable. I could understand in some aspects, but I was like, I don't want to start at that low, especially if I don't want to do it. So I started my base price. I added a 0, and my base was $250 an email. And I know Chris could charge up to like thousands for just a single email. So I was like, I want to aspire to do that. Like, I'd rather have more than less. Right. But of course, I think you have to have the skills to back it up. And so you can't just blindly pick a number and, be confident with that. I think a lot of the work that I've done through websites and, really kind of understanding the client allows me to be able to back up my premium rates. And so right now emails are like starting at $500 an email, and I have some people balk at me, but that is like, they're not my clientele. And I've had some people who say, great, that's awesome, let's do, a set of 10. And then they eventually become long-term clients, and it just starts from there. But I think, I've definitely had conversations with other copywriters where they're like, you charge how much? Like, how do you even do that? It's
how do you even charge $5,000 for 10 emails?
It's like I think it's really the mindset. You have to be confident about it. You have to know that you can provide the skills and deliver, and be completely detached from the outcome. Like if you are needy or desperate and you say like, oh, well, I want to charge this, but we could just like, do 100 an email, or even then I'll throw in 5 free. Like, it's not going to help you at the end of the day. And when you're working with more advanced clients, they don't have the time to deal with this. They want someone who is very sure of themselves, who knows what they're doing, who isn't very, like, I think there's something to say with that meme where it's like, you charge $5 and they have a bunch of complaints, and then you charge $5,000 and they're like, thank you. Clients appreciate people who know exactly what they're doing, and they come in and, they respect themselves enough to charge premium because they know they have the knowledge. And that's, at the end of the day, you want to work with clients who respect you as the expert, because they're hiring you for a reason. They're not hiring you so that they could babysit you,
Yeah, definitely. Do you think that after working with like 140 clients, maybe that also gave you the confidence, but also like you understand business owners to the point where you feel like you can charge those rates, and like, okay, I know like this is fair, this is reasonable, this is something that they will be willing to pay, but like, because you've worked with so many people, what they actually care about. Like if you just work with 10,
right? Yeah.
I don't know if maybe that's a big part of that for sure. I think so, at least.
I think so. It's definitely putting in your reps, understanding like how people work. And I've, met a wide variety of different types of clients. And of course, they're all in different areas. If they're a solopreneur and a personal brand versus a large organization who's been in business for 40 years, like their budget, their outlook, their everything is different. And so I think you really have to kind of take that into consideration too, based on who you're talking to. Like, it wouldn't make sense for me to work with someone who's brand new starting, think they need a funnel, think they need email marketing, daily emails, but they don't have their offer suite together. They don't have like a proven offer or anything like that. It would be an injustice for me to be like, okay, I'll work with you because I want you to pay these premium prices. But at the end of the day, like, it's meeting them also where they're at. And as an expert or a pro in the industry, you know the difference. And it's not just, trying to get money at the end of the day. And it's really, again, a relationship business. And you have to really be able to, diagnose the issue and see if you're the right person to help them with that. And if you're not, direct them, if you can, to someone who's better suited, or, just being able to understand like where they're at and if you have the right solution for them. And if they're not ready for that, then it's not something you push on someone.
Yeah, I definitely resonate with that. And I think that I had a copywriter actually yesterday I was chatting with, and he was saying to me, I want to work with this one business really, really badly, Matt. I really want to work with this business. And they like me, but, let's say, long story short, like, I didn't pass the first round, but they wanted me to try again in a few months. It's been a few months. I want to try again. Do you think I should just offer them some copy for free to like reduce the risk? And I'm like, okay, what do you think that a business owner that's making 8 figures is really concerned about the $1,500 or $2,000 or even $5,000 that you're going to charge up front? Is that really the risk to them, or is the risk that they're going to allocate all this time and energy and they're going to refocus to train you up and integrate you into their team? Like, what do you think is the real risk?
But that comes back to your secret formula: use your brain.
This is a secret formula: use your brain. Oh, we should cut that from this because it's so secret. But it's like he's like, yeah, that makes sense. Like, like they clearly the risk is more about like bringing me into the team. If I'm not going to actually perform, it's going to like break their momentum and their flow. And it's like, yeah. So what do you think a better way to reduce the risk is? He's like, well, how about if you just demonstrate up front, like you show that your copy is improved and that a client that you're working with is happy with you? What if you, instead of offering to write 10 free emails, next time you follow up with them, just include a screenshot of the most recent client that loves how good your copy is? And it's like, there's a little bit of proof that I've improved since the last time we worked together. And so we'll see what happens, but it's like small nuanced things like that. I think you actually do need to just be in the industry and be around other successful copywriters, especially if you're newer, right? Because you don't really know when you get started, I don't know, maybe for you, actually curious, like, did you know what business owners in this industry were like when you first got started? Like, did you have a previous world or background or did you just figure it out?
I kind of figured it out. Like, no one tells you how like complex or complicated things can be. It's just a different world, and there's no rule book when it comes to that. I came from the corporate world prior to this, and so I was in human resources for a little over 6 years. I was working up, I was at a manager level, and I was dealing with copywriters. I just didn't understand like the level of what they did at the time, because I worked for a pharmaceutical ad company. And so it was very compliant based. And I was like, that's boring. Like, I don't want anything to do with that. And I did have a creative outlet where I did work with like bigger brands like Dunkin', Samsung, Uniqlo, and Burt's Bees, and like Neutrogena and stuff like that. Through it was like, I guess it's influencing. I don't know. I hate that word. But I had a large audience where I was partnering with these big brands and writing ads. And I didn't know it at the time, because I just thought it was like fun stuff. And that's the beauty of like copywriting, because I didn't know it existed prior. And so when I was targeted by a Facebook ad for a copy course, I was like, holy shit, you could get paid to write? Like, that's insane. Because I went to school originally for creative writing, and my mom was like, what are you going to do with that? And I'm like, I don't know. She's like, you're going to be a starving artist? And I'm like, no. A teacher? No. So I ended up transferring to a business school. And I went down the list of majors and I chose HR because it was something that was a comfort level of, I know I could do that, but not that I wanted to do it. And so when I eventually got into copy, I quit my job during the pandemic, which is something that most people don't do when you have a stable job and the world's kind of coming to an end. Not really, but
well, a lot of people felt like it was, for sure.
Yeah. And so it was a very scary leap for me because I am someone who really values stability. And I was, I had a lot of like pressure from just in general growing up, like having a good head on my shoulders. And so the logical thing in a pandemic is to not quit your job. It's to keep it. And so I quit it to pursue copywriting full time. I didn't have anything lined up. I didn't have any clients. I just decided to go all in. And within 6 months, I passed my salary from my corporate salary. And 9 months in, I hit 6 figures and the rest was history. But it's really just, I don't know. I think dealing with human resources, I was able to understand different personalities. And that I brought that into business with working with clients because you deal with a lot of different people. The through line for me was being a fine line between the business and the people. And kind of that applies to copywriting because as the copywriter, you are the fine line between the business owner and the people that they're trying to either help or serve. And so it's really kind of understanding how they work together and meeting them in the middle.
How did you get started, like beating the competition? Like you said, you got to like you replaced your corporate income after 6 months, right? And then 9 months you got 6 figures. Like there's quite a decent amount of copywriters back in 2020. I remember there was a lot of copywriters. So without experience, how did you like just stand out and actually start closing all these clients so soon?
So right before I decided to quit my job, I created a website. And I know not everyone agrees with this, that you don't need a website. And through the course that I took initially, they recommended a website. So I went all in on a website. And I also decided to create a portfolio. I've never really actually written copy for clients before, but I created spec pieces. And so I took some brands, and part of this was all like homework in the course itself. But I decided to take it a step further. I reached out to designers and I partnered with them. And so I did the copy, they did the design, and we created different things, whether it was a landing page. I did a landing page for Netflix, and I did like an ad for Cheetos and some other stuff. And so I displayed that very clearly. I put spec, right? But everyone saw that and was like, holy shit. And I'm like, I'm a copywriter. Right out of the gate, once I launched the website, I told everyone, I'm a copywriter. And I think the mindset of me, putting it out and believing that that is true, I was able to get client referrals right away, which was super weird, but cool. And so I started from there. My first client ever paid me $150 to do 1 page of copy, and it's not much. Obviously, I charge a lot more now, but it was so cool to get that first amount of money online. And I will never forget that. And it's just really kind of continuing to drive. I think a big thing was networking from the get-go. I didn't want to network with copywriters initially because I didn't feel like they would help where I wanted to go. And I do appreciate having, the copywriting community now, just because we're all in it together and we understand the nuances that happen behind the industry. And it's just great to be connected in general. But I went after everyone that compliments me. So I talked to designers, I talked to project managers, I talked to social media managers, and I really tried to kind of branch out that way because all of them had a client that needed copy. And so that was kind of like my shoe in. And because I knew all these other people that complemented, we could kind of serve each other in that way. And it just really became the start of just referrals and building a kind of referral system, but network as well.
You share a lot of secrets there. That's a lot of good stuff. I remember actually this is actually something I've been suggesting to starting up copywriters. They tell me, what do you do to get started? And I say, well, if you want to be an email copywriter, why don't you write 50 emails or 10 emails? But 50 is more impressive. But go choose the top 5 to 10 businesses in the industry that you want to write in, and go write copy for them as if it's their copy. It's spec, but go write it as if it's their copy and display it on your website. And you can say spec or whatever, but it doesn't matter, because we had a copywriter that was writing emails for Andrew Tate in the dojo. She's busy writing the emails. And then some other copywriters jumped on the call and they saw me reviewing Andrew Tate's email copy. And they're like, whoa, Andrew Tate's copywriters in the dojo. It's that's cool, that's amazing. And it's well, no, we're just practicing right now. But instantly, it doesn't matter. No one thought about that. Doesn't matter whether or not it's actually Andrew Tate's copyright or not. They read the copy and it looks like Andrew. It literally sounds exactly like Andrew. And so they read that and they saw me critiquing it and they just thought, okay, it must be Andrew's copywriter. And that's a big thing. And I remember a few years ago, I was looking to hire an editor for a client. It wasn't for me, but it was for a client looking for some video editor. And my friend referred me to this agency in South Africa. I think they're in Durban, or they're on the east side of South Africa. And I went to their website. And you know how Disney Plus has those little mini animations of different movies? They have a little, and then the little thing goes plus symbol. They had designed one for Disney, a little Disney animation, but Star Wars version of it. And it was so perfect, it looked like it was Disney had used it. And I was like, oh my gosh, these guys work with Disney. This is amazing. They work with Disney. And I said to my friend, these guys work with Disney. He's like, I mean, and I was like, oh, wow, that's good. That's very good. That's so smart, they spend, let's say 1 week you spend 1 week building that kind of a portfolio, and it doesn't even matter if they, I don't even care if they work with Disney or not, because after seeing that work, I just knew okay, these guys can do anything that, if Disney hired them, they would have been satisfied. And I think that's more important for many people, at least with our industry, right? I mean, copy is visuals. You don't actually need to necessarily say, I've got 5 years of experience. If your copy wows your client or wows people, that's okay, you can do this, right?
Yeah, definitely. It's all perception, and you're kind of just tapping into people's emotions and whether they resonate with you, and if it works and they believe it, which is part of what we do, then that means that you're really good at what you do, especially if you haven't worked with the brand that you are showcasing. So it definitely shows those skills front and center.
One of my biggest clients I closed like that. Now I think about it, it's I had a referral introduction and they asked me to share some of my previous work, and I shared some email copy I'd written. And the cool thing about one of my previous clients is that he did a lot of joint ventures with other very, very big influencers. So even though I only had been writing for his list, I wrote the partner copy for all the other influencers that had partnered with him. So from one client, I ended up having 8 clients that all 8 different voices I'd written, and I'd written in all the big guys that everybody else knows as well. And so I sent this portfolio in, and it's legit work that they actually used and sent to their lists as well. Fortunately, I didn't actually have to go and work for each of them because it would have taken years. But I sent this portfolio of, I think it was 10 emails and 1 from each of them. And the guy was like, okay, you get it. Done. You get it. How do we get started? I was like, cool. Okay. And it was actually as easy as that. And a lot of copywriters, they get that to that point, So, but you could do it in the beginning. So thanks for sharing that. I think that's very valuable for copywriters getting started. What else would you say, in terms of your own brand, right? Because you've been writing for other people's brands, but what are some things as a copywriter you can do to, it doesn't have to necessarily be stand out, but showcase that you're good at what you do. How do you build that brand for yourself?
I think I love leading into storytelling, and that's just something that I think is very unique to you, only you, and like it just infuses you into everything. And as you're building a personal brand, the people that are looking at you, sometimes they are looking whether you have copy chops and all of that, but they're not very specific into seeing like your portfolio or anything like that. So it's really kind of making sure that you are demonstrating who you are as a person, because at the end of the day, they would be working with you. And so, there are so many copywriters in the space right now. And so the way that you stand out is by sharing more about you and your story. And if you resonate with the person, then they're going to remember you and want to work with you versus them. And so a big piece of that is really just sharing like slices of life and making sure that they understand who you are, versus you're not just some, monkey behind a like laptop and a keyboard. Like you are actually a person, and your likes and whatever comes to mind. Like there's definitely different copywriters in the space that leverage that. Like Thale, she loves horses, and everyone knows that immediately. And so it's really kind of linking into something like that with story as well. Like if you are a really good storyteller, you write really good copy too, because you can bring someone into a moment, into a memory or anything like that really draws them in, and then they don't even realize that you're not even like, it's just like they want to devour everything that you have. And I think that that's something that I learned definitely from Daniel Throssell. I actually wanted to get into email because of him, because of his parallel welcome sequence, because it was just something that not a lot of copywriters do. And I was like, you could write like stories and emails, like that's insane. And so it really spoke to me. And then being able to do that, I think, and carrying that through just client work and my own, it's been super fun. And being able to do that, like I was able to leverage a story about steak in a cover letter for a role with Rich Sheffrin, and I was recognized. The copy chief picked me in the lineup of the top 12. He reviewed like cover letters out of everyone, and from there I made top 8 in consideration for the role itself. And it was really cool. And they remember me with steak. So now every time they see steak, they think of me, which is funny.
That is cool. That's cool. Yeah, people don't realize how important that is. It's like you said, the first thing you said was you started calling yourself a copywriter. But it's like, it's not that you're a copywriter, you're also Jenn. And that's something that people need to remember. If you want to get clients, it's, yes, people do hire a copywriter, but the one thing that no one else is? You. You're the only you. So like, you want to create a USP if you're a copywriter and you're working in a team. That is like the number one USP, is that you're working in the team, not anybody else. And so what do I post on Facebook? You don't have to say like the 3 subject line secrets to get more sales. It's like, how many copy gurus have taught people to post like that? It's ridiculous. But it's like, well, just, focus on who you are and showcase some of the things that you like, Yeah, thanks for sharing that. That's really good. What would you say is I want to go back to the website copy, because I've always struggled to like enjoy website copy. I remember the last website copy project I did, I said no more. I was like no more, because I was playing video games. I was like escaping the work. Every time I sat at that desk, I was like, oh, I could write this. And I think I would say that it was partially the client too, because they said that they wanted one thing and then they didn't actually want that, even though they said it. It was like boardroom fatigue. They like got tired of their old website. They wanted a new website. So I'm writing the new website. And they said to me, Matthew, we want this website to be new, pop, like good, but we don't want it to be too different from the old one. So I didn't really make it that different. I just like changed the copy, and like we had the same design almost. And then the guy looks at it and he's like, I don't understand. This looks like the old website. I'm like, yeah, it's what you asked for, right? Like you asked for that, So then we had another variation and another variation. And eventually I just got tired and I told the marketing director, I'm like, we're just having so many revisions because he's not clear on what he wants up front. Maybe that I could have done better. I could have held him to like, okay, you need to be very clear what you want, because this project could go a lot of, that may be something I could have improved on for next time. But yeah, I'm curious to hear from you. Like, what are some of the, I don't know, like cons of websites, or like what are some of the things that you really have to make sure you get right? Otherwise they could turn into nightmare projects. you know?
So that's definitely one thing, like making sure that they understand what direction that they want to go, or if they're leaning heavily on you and you have the creative freedom to help guide them, which can also bleed into like out of scope kind of things and scope creep.
Yeah, right.
So I think it's really kind of making sure that you have your process down, pat, and you talk through everything. A lot of the things that I like to do is to ask the client to share with me some websites that they admire or that they aspire to have elements of, and we will walk through those websites together and pick out what they like about it. And so that gives me an idea of like kind of what vibe or mood or direction that they want to kind of go in. And a lot of it has to do with visuals too, because a lot of people, especially clients looking for websites or anything, are more visual people. So they don't really necessarily care about the words. And so another thing that I like to do is also wireframe my Google Docs when I send them over so that they have a visual. Sometimes I used to go as far as actually like designing a wireframe for them to see it visually as an example layout, because usually they would come to me first and then they would go to a designer, and then the designer would take the copy and create visuals around it. Other times there would be a template or design in place that they want already, and they're like, I don't know, I want copy for this, but here is exactly what I'm looking for in terms of layout, and I'll work on that. So it kind of just depends in that sense, but really kind of getting very clear on what the client likes, doesn't like, and then also making it clear to them that this is also for their target audience and not for them. And so it has to have a through line for all of it to make sure that, while they might not agree with certain things or certain ways of saying things, it's not for them to, enjoy. It's for the types of clients or customers that they're looking to attract. And certain words and phrases or things definitely don't align that way. So kind of not being afraid to argue where you think it matters most when it comes to the copy. Because sometimes clients come in and they change everything to how they want to speak. And then they're back to square one where they're not attracting the right people because it's not resonating with, who they want to attract.
I think for some clients and some business owners listening to this, you got to think about this really. Like if you knew what message that you should have, you would have it already. So when you have a copywriter come in and change the message and they're a professional, maybe beginners, you can challenge them a little bit, but like a really, really good copywriter, like try your best to listen to their perspective on what they've done in the market, the research that they've done. Because I've had that. I've had clients, I like put a marketing message out there and they say, no, this isn't what our customers want. And then they change it. And then, fortunately with email, like you get the data really, really quickly and it's like they're email bombs. And then they're like, okay, Matt, you just do your thing. And that's great. I enjoy that. But I don't think you could do that as easily with website copy because sometimes it's not so direct response, right? Sometimes you don't get to see, sometimes people put a website together for like credibility and authority, not necessarily as their funnel. It's more of a, it's more of like a credibility piece that complements the sales process, but it's not actually like directly connected or attributed to sales. I wanted to ask you something though. I wanted to ask you, like, with the client, you're talking to them quite a lot on the phone then, right? If you're going to have to go through this process with them, like, do you communicate with them up front, like, hey, Mr. Client or Miss Client, prospect, whatever, like, we need to have some serious chats because this is like going to be a big deal, what we're about to work on together.
Yeah. So when it comes to the bigger projects that are, brand story and web, it really, I do need to talk to the clients and they understand that from the get-go in terms of process. The way that it works is, and you're not going to like this, but I do have a long form that they have to fill out, and it is upfront. And I let them know on, the call before we proceed that there is homework involved. And in order to start the project on time, we have to have the homework in. And it's not their job to be a writer. We're going to go on a kickoff call where we will talk about everything. But I want them to have all of the questions in front of them to really think about it, because a lot of the times they don't think about all of the questions that I've asked, and the whole purpose of the homework is for them to start thinking about their future, their brand, and their direction. And usually they don't think that deep, when it comes to everything. So, and I give them enough time, because I'm like, you're going to have to sit here. It's not going to be super easy unless you know exactly where you want to go. And most clients don't tend to do that. So it does take some time for them to fill out, and it makes them think, and it really makes them kind of really understand, okay, I need to get clear on XYZ before moving forward. And once they submit that, I will, look at all the answers. And if there's any, gray areas, I'll explore that more on the call, because they're more talkers and my job is to write. So when I'm on the kickoff call with them, then we'll kind of dive into everything. I usually have the kickoff call anywhere from 60 to 90 minutes, depending on the client. And then from there, we don't exactly talk again. I bulk all of it in the beginning because I want them to understand that process. And then from there, hands off. They relax. They don't have to deal with anything. And I just, go in and take what they have said and make magic and give it to them. And we kind of go from there.
I think it makes sense. I mean, I've often said that the onboarding process needs to be less questions and make it a little bit easier, and don't overwhelm them early on, because you need to get their buy-in. That's what we talk about a lot. But in these kinds of projects, it does make sense, because think about it. Building a website's not that different from writing a book. It's like the process up front is it's a lot. You have to say, well, you want to write a book. You can't just delegate it and disappear. Because some founders, they might think, oh, let's just delegate. Oh, we need a book, or oh, we need a website. But it's no, this is something that's going to be a very, very significant thing. You really need to consider this and spend the time on it up front. And I think, from what you're saying, I'm just putting myself in your client's shoes. It's yeah, that's why Jenn's a professional, because she's making me do the stuff that I need to do if I want this done properly, And then they're really got to consider, do you really want this, or do you really want that? Whatever whatever they say is okay, that's actually what we want. It's very cool. I like that. Yeah, I can definitely see where I could have done better as a website copywriter. That's for sure. Because I was doing that process where I wasn't actually asking too many questions up front. I was asking them a couple things, and I was all right, let me just go and get working. I don't want to sit here for 2 hours with the client. And I think, for me at least, I think there's a bit of a balance, because I do know when I need to absolutely get information because of the other copy experience I have. But I think a lot of less experienced copywriters, they don't want to bother their client. But it's well, there's a balance, right? What you've said, you need the information. So you have to expect it from them. Otherwise, you can't deliver professional work. And that's, again, why the price is important. Because if you don't charge a lot, they don't necessarily take you as seriously. I think part of the reason people fill in your form is because first of all, it's a referral, but second of all, you're more on the premium side. So when people pay you, they think, okay, well, I better respect the process because this is a professional. Whereas if it was just $1,000 for a website project from someone on Upwork, they might not necessarily want to do that process, even though it's the same process. It's the perception is oh, it's $1,000 to some random person I don't really know, whatever. I don't really want to follow that long Google Doc. But it's because you did it, and they paid you, I don't know, $10,000 or something, right? And they're okay, well, 15, whatever. I better do this properly, because this is a big investment.
Yeah, and I make them very aware of the process up front, because they're very much tied to deadlines as I am. And I want to make that clear. I've had issues where drafts take forever to be reviewed, and it's on their time. And if you don't set a deadline and enforce it, then it gets messy. And so I give clients 3 business days to review everything in a round. And if I hear nothing back, they waive that revision round and we move forward as is. And if I, have feedback, then I'll address it. If they need to hop on a call, I'm happy to hop on a call to kind of, live revision it together. And that has helped some clients, but most are pretty hands-off. They respect the expertise, and they just want to hand it over and have someone else work on it and review it when they can. But they're very aware of the process and how very streamlined it is. And I did that because there are they feel like they're not tied to it, and they are. They need to, approve what's happening. And if they're not happy with it, again, they have to say it. And I also, provide guidelines on how to give proper feedback, and you can't
cool.
just say, oh, I don't like that. I like this. I don't like that. I want to know what you like, don't like, hate, love. And the most important piece, why? Is it because, oh, I would never say something like that. I would rather say it like this. I'm not you. I don't understand, what your preferences are from the get-go. And so having that explanation as to why they don't like something is super helpful to, redirect me. But also, I have guidelines where, again, read this in the mind of who you're trying to attract, not as yourself, because it's a different, mindset. It's a different way of looking at things. And so a lot of times people don't remember that piece. And so it's important to remind them of that as well.
It just sounds like eye to eye. You're a business owner working with another business owner eye to eye. So many copywriters, they put the client on a pedestal, or they're working upwards. And it's from this conversation, it's like you really work with your clients as two professionals figuring something out together, eye to eye, equal. How did you go about setting that up? Having that frame? Is it sales call? Is it some other secret? What?
Part of it is in the sales call. I really kind of make sure that they know that they're hiring me as the expert, but also they're the expert in their business, and I need them just as much as they need me. And so we walk into this as partners. We have to collaborate. We have to communicate. And, that's the only way that this is going to work. I'm not here to make it my own thing and to do what I think is best for your business. You wouldn't like that. And you're not here to, tell me how to do my job either. And so I think that at the end of the day, if you want to approach something, again, it's relationship business. We are communicating and collaborating on this, and it's only going to be as effective as how much you put in, and not, anything else. So it's really important to have both of us involved to the degree that we need to be in order to make it successful.
What would you say to copywriters that are not currently treating their clients as partners? What can they start to do? Maybe what can they do to start being seen as more of a partner?
I think they need to first believe in themselves as an equal, because a lot of the time copywriters that are starting out tend to feel like, oh, okay, I need to bend over backwards or else I'm not going to get hired. I'm not going to pay bills. I'm not going to do anything. And at the end of the day, I know in the beginning you have to be a little less picky because you are starting out, you want to get the reps in. But it's really important that you're also interviewing the client as a potential client versus them interviewing you as their potential hire. And so just kind of thinking about that framework and that mindset difference where, if you going into this, if you're not going to be happy, right away, it's not a person you're going to deal with, or get along with, it's probably not going to be a good project. It's already a telltale sign. And so I think just setting your expectations from the get-go, the moment that you have that initial conversation, really helps set the tone for the rest of the relationship. Because if you walk in and you're not the driver, then you're not going to ever be seen as the expert, because you can't even stand up for yourself in the beginning to say well, I have my process and this is how I do it and this is what I've done. And that's kind of how we would work. I would love your input on certain things, but in order for me to do the best job that I can, I have certain things in place. And no one's going to tell you oh, well, I don't want to do your process because mine's better. they're hiring you for a reason. But if you walk in and you're like, oh, well, whatever you want to do, and we'll do it this way, and let's start with that, then they're like, oh, well, what am I hiring you? Am I hiring you to be my employee? I guess so. So,
That's interesting. I still think copywriters are going to struggle, though, because they're like, let's say in the beginning, right, you have no clients and you've got your first sales call, or maybe you've had a few sales calls, you've had a few deals, but now you're on a good call and you really want to close that deal. And you don't have really, psychologically, you don't think you have the walkaway power. You just got to just believe in yourself and just go through that anyway and be like, you know what, even if I kind of need this money right now, I'm just going to make sure I don't take on something that you just do it anyway. Is that it?
It's sort of hard. I mean, it took a while for me to learn. I think with every experience, I've buckled down my contracts and really kind of made sure that I cover my bases, because as you continue to work with clients, you'll understand what you tolerate, what you can't tolerate, what you want to work with, like who you want to work with, what kind of brands, and who you don't. And you won't know until you get out there. And so in the beginning, yeah, it kind of sucks. You have to kind of bite your tongue a little bit. But I don't think that if you come in with the right mindset and you are confident in yourself and your abilities, and you have the boundaries that you want to set, like, they'll eventually get easier. It'll get easier to enforce them. In the beginning, it's kind of hard, especially when you need the money, you want to get started, you want to do a good job, but you also don't want to lose yourself in the process. And I think that it's really important that, you don't water yourself down because you need something to work. And once you continue putting in the reps, you will gain the confidence. And even if it's a little fake in the beginning, like, you will see the wins, they'll start stacking, and you'll have all of that to work off of. And then you can get to a point where you're like, I actually don't think we're a good fit. Sorry. And you can walk away. Even if it's super scary, like, you could try practicing. If you get a feeling from someone on a call that you just don't really like them, or it's not going to work out for whatever reason, then you could say, unfortunately, I don't have the capacity to work with you, or whatever it is. Or you could push them off. You could set small steps where, like, I don't have the next open slot for a project until 2 months out, or whatever it is, and see what happens. And once you start developing, that mindset that you can say no. Like, I think saying no outright is really hard for people, but if you set certain things in place that kind of prevent it to make it an easy yes, then it will help you get better at approaching those types of conversations if it's not very comfortable.
I like that. You know what one copywriter in the dojo does? You know who it is, but whenever he doesn't want to work with a client, he doubles or triples his price, and he quotes the price way higher than he knows they're happy with. So let's say the project's supposed to be $6,000. He's like, yeah, for this, it's usually about $12,000, because he doesn't actually want to work with them. And so, like, his thinking is, well, if they say yes to $12,000, hey, he'll learn to like the project,
Yeah.
And if they say no, then he got practice getting rejected, but asking for a lot of money. And it, like, builds his self-esteem to be able to be comfortable asking for a lot of money. I thought that's such a cool way to do it too. Because, like, if he says, let's say the business owner says, well, it's like, well, $12,000 is a little bit above what we were looking for. It's like, okay, yeah, no, that's understandable. Not everybody's, at that level yet. Like, not everybody's at that level yet, but I'm more than happy to introduce you to somebody I think would match your budget. Like, what is your budget? Let me find somebody and set you up with a talented writer, and then you become a referrer, if you want to refer this person, if they're not a nightmare client and you just don't align. I like that, And for me, I think for me what happened was I just went through so much pain in projects that's why I'm comfortable saying no. It's not because I've got this, like, secret inner strength and confidence. I'm just like, I know what it's like to say yes to that project, and I do not want that. And I don't want it so much that saying no right now is going to be way easier, because I had those projects. I had some really long landing pages and sales pages for businesses I really didn't want to work with. And I remember, like, even I had an agency I closed once. We agreed to this deal, And then I was sitting here busy selling this mastermind that I didn't believe in, and I hated the project, and I just refunded them, and I was like, I just don't want to do this. This is not my thing. So now whenever I'm on those sales calls with somebody and I can just tell like I don't want to do this, there's no resistance, because I'm like, it's so easy to just say no right now, and like 10 minutes from now life's great again, or I'm gonna have to suffer for 3 weeks pulling my hair out with the most unpleasant client that maybe is a good client for somebody else, but definitely doesn't work with the way I like to work in my process, you know? So there's a lot of ideas for anybody listening to this. But I think the biggest thing is like, you know, like you said, right? It's like, if you got the good spec work, I think the website's a great thing. A lot of people don't suggest building your own website. I set up a website when I first got started too, because it's like every single thing that other people don't want to do that you do gives you another like, you know, step. So it's like, if they don't want to set up a website, cool, I'm going to set up a website. So I set up a website, set up a professional email, had my spec, you know, then you're going to get more clients or more potential clients. And then you can actually decide which deals you want, you know, because you have options.
Yeah. I think another thing though is you have to put yourself out there. Like, I know that's uncomfortable for some people. And I know it's not everyone's cup of tea. Like, I was super comfortable on social, and I would, you know, do videos and dance and stuff. And like that's my thing. You don't have to do that. But I think putting yourself out there is important, because you could be the best anything in the world, but if no one knows who you are, it doesn't matter.
So you dance to get copywriting clients?
Sorta, yeah. I did a lot of reels and like TikToks of dancing, and I would put, you know, marketing pieces in it as well. And I've gotten a lot of clients who have seen my dancing and they're like, I love your energy. Like, I just want to hire you. And it has never failed me.
That's the actual secret. We should clip that part. Don't tell people dancing on TikTok is the way to get copywriting clients. No, that's amazing. But it's like, there's a reason that it works, right? It's because you're leaning into what you are, like who you are, right? And everybody's got that aspect of them, lean into who they are, you know? I'm not a TikTok dancer, but I like chess. And I make that a big part of my brand. It's like, I will have chess on my website. I'll try to have a chess set behind me, you know? So it's a thing. And business owners that like chess, they like working with me because they're like, oh, he's a strategic guy. He likes to think about things. He's methodical with his process. It's like, you know, creativity meets strategy. That's sort of the, you know, that's part of the brand that I created for myself with clients and email marketing. It's like, I've got creative copy, but there's always a strategy behind the copy. And they like that because not every copywriter does that. So that worked for me. That's worked for me for many years. And so everybody listening, you know, like, what is that thing that you can add to the brand? There's a really cool copywriter, you know, in the dojo. He's constantly doing martial arts, and he like added that to his brand because it's like he's constantly pushing himself to the limits. And a lot of business owners, they have an affinity to martial arts. They like aspire to also do martial arts. And I think it's a really easy way in. When he's on the interview with a business owner that's like, oh, that's cool, you like martial arts. Like, oh, wow, you won a competition as a martial art. You know, you won a competition, that's cool. I like martial arts, or whatever, you know, so.
Yeah.
That's very cool. That's very interesting. Jenn, where can people reach you if they want to know more secrets?
They can reach me at my website or on social.
Not TikTok?
No, not TikTok. Don't reach me on TikTok.
Okay, so on your website, okay, I'll put some information on the video, so that if someone wants to reach out and ask you to, you know, help them with their brand and take them to the next level, then they can find you. Thanks so much for your time. Really appreciated this. I definitely learned a lot about website copy, and I'm actually maybe I'll try a project again, and I'll do it properly this time. Thank you.